So, welcome back, guys, to the Crazy Juicy Love podcast. And my friend here is just grinning. His name is Jamal Smiles, which is like a nickname. Thank you for being on the show, Jamal.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you can talk.
I am not a robot.
Yeah, you're not a robot.
I'm actually here and present.
Yeah, you're here and present. So the reason why I wanted to bring this gentleman on is because something has happened in his life, and it's worthy of talking about it. And I think when I was on the phone with you that day, when I asked you to be on the podcast, obviously I was like very emotional, because we've had plenty of talks, and
mostly you telling me to cut the crap, like cut the shit.
Yeah. I think I told you this, that I am in these two entrepreneur programs, being coached in my own business and stuff like that. And one of the programs I'm in is in B school, and it's a lot of work, which is great work, but good work, and being specific on your business and your clients and what have you. And one of the booklets there's a question, and it says, "Who in your business is killing it?" Mm. And so I was like, oh, okay. I could think of so many people, and I was like, oh, I don't know any Black men that are killing it as a coach, or any Black gay men that are out there doing a damn thing. So anyway, and this is B School, and B School is by Maria Folio, and then there's over 4,000 people in this program, and the community is so great, and any question you need asked, they're like blah blah blah. They're and 90%, probably 95% women, probably 1% Black, and a very small percentage are men. And and so I was like, well, I don't know any. I kind of went into the thread. I was like, I don't really know any African American gay men who are killing it. And this one girl brought this name up. His name is Jason Rosario, which he's not a coach, but he has a mission on helping men bring mental health and health to the forefront, because men don't talk about health at all. And so somehow, right, this is why I want to bring it. They don't. And so he created a show called Dear Men, which is, he interviewed all these different celebrities. It's really good. And they all talk about their mental health issues, suffering from anxiety, suffering from some kind of health issue. And they talk about why men don't talk about health and how that needs to change, because if you see what's happening in the world, with Me Too, all these movements that are men, or I forgot the other one. But anyway, just bringing the forefront, and all these men are getting in trouble, going to jail for all these things. Yeah. And I thought about you because in that moment, because I'm in that sort of space of doing all the research on listening to his podcast. And he also was the guy who helped, I'm not sure if you saw these recent Gillette commercials, that he helped create those commercials where you see the dad teaching his trans son how to shave. And you see these dads, talking about their mental health and how you feeling today, changing the conversation with men. So this is a part of the reason, one of my missions is to help change the conversation. Help change the conversation that it's okay to talk about your health, your mental health. So with that being said, I want you to take us back, because I don't think people even know what we're talking about just yet. Probably by the title.
So if they don't know, they didn't read. Huh? If they don't know, they didn't read.
They didn't read, right? But I want to first start off with you taking us back to the moment that had you go to the doctor to get checked out.
Yeah, so the 3 weeks leading up to February 4th, I had just stomach viruses left and right. stomach aches, stomach viruses. It's like, and no matter what diet I did, like whether I was eating like bread, rice, applesauce, and toast, you know, or whatever I wanted, it's like, it just wouldn't get any better. And it just got to the point where it was like, I wasn't really eating anything, or I wasn't really eating anything bad. And then on the 4th, I just remember like having plain ramen noodles and it feeling like there was barbed wire in my stomach, you know, like it was like I couldn't digest it, I couldn't eat it. And I was supposed to go into the city, I was supposed to, you know, do some assisting, I was supposed to, you know, be great with others. And here I am like crying in my car in a parking lot because I can't even digest the food that I just ate. You know, at the train station, you know? So it's like, I was like on my way to the city, like literally at the train station, like I can't do this. Like, you know, I'm taking myself to the hospital, like I can't. So I went home, took a shower, and I was actually gonna take a nap and like sit this one out. Like, you know, like maybe it'll go away. And I was like, no, like if you put this off, it'll just be there later. So, you know, lo and behold, I like Ubered my way to the hospital and, you know, checked myself in. And then, you know, they wanted to like rule out everything else. So they checked for appendicitis. They're like, you know, you have some inflammation down there. So like, we'll give you some antibiotics. You know, they gave me antibiotics, ruled out appendicitis. And they were like, yeah, we didn't think it was anyway, because the symptoms are only 24 to 48 hours. They're not like 3 weeks. You know, lo and behold, they're like, we're going to just send you to the GI doctor, the gastrointestinologist. So I'm like, okay. They send me to the GI and they do a colonoscopy. They're like, yeah, we couldn't get the camera, you know, we couldn't do a full scan because the camera couldn't get past the tumor that's in your colon. And I was like, you know, still like happy-go-lucky, like, you know, like still like in my Superman mode, like, you know, like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm super healthy. Like, oh, look at my 6-pack, you know, I'm super healthy. Like, this stuff doesn't happen to me, you know, don't worry, it's gonna come back benign, it's gonna come back, you know, non-cancerous, you know. And then I just remember like that morning on February 11th when the doctor's just like sitting there telling me like, yeah, we got the results back, you know, it's cancer, you know. And I just remember like tears just like rolling down my eyes and like my body just filling up with hatred because it's like, you know, this doesn't happen to me, you know, thinking in my head like, doctor, you don't know what you're talking about, like do it again, like, you know, I'm sure if you run the result. Did you say that? No, I'm just thinking this is like all stuff that's like going in my mind. So like outside, all you just see is like, you know, tears rolling down my face, like maybe like 4 tears. It was just like, wow. And like, but on the inside, like, you don't know what you're thinking about, like, you don't know what you're doing, like, you don't know how to do your job, like, there's no way that I have this. And then like, I just remember like, after maybe like 30 or like 45 minutes after that, just like, you know, like, it is what it is. Like, you came here for what you came for. You came here for what you came here for. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you know, right. At the moment, like, you know, it's really just about you getting better and you getting back to being healthy. And the whole reason why you're at the hospital is because you put your trust in the doctors to give you the correct information to act upon for you to be healthy. So.
Yeah, that's so great. You know what I mean? I'm curious because to even get yourself back into that conversation of like, okay, I found out information. I found out what I wanted to know. Now, like, I'm going to do what it takes, because that news takes people out of the game. It really does. You know what I mean? They're like, you know, I mean, I had 2 uncles, you know, one, they just didn't do anything in order to take care of themselves. And, you know, they both passed away, you know what I mean? Because they just, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, not like to be bringing doom and gloom, but, and I bring this up because they never talked about health. Like at one point, one of my uncles, I just randomly asked a question. We were all at Christmas dinner or something around Christmas time, and I knew he was older, like, and he was in good health. I mean, I guess he was good health. I knew he didn't exercise, and I knew he had been in the military, and, you know, been in the military that long, you get, you know, healthcare. And I was just, oh, you know, so I don't know. I don't know why this came to me. I was just like, oh, so like, how was your health? You know, how was it, you know, have you been last time at the doctor? He looks at me. He's like, what doctor? And I was just like, what do you mean, what doctor? He was like, ask my girlfriend. I was like, well, why do I need to ask her? I'm asking you. When was the last time you went to the doctor? And it became this huge argument. He hadn't gone to the doctor in like, since he was in the military, like almost 10 years.
Wow.
And I was just like, what do you mean you haven't been to the doctor in 10 years? You know, and so, you know, kind of find out when he finally did, he had stage 4 cancer. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, like, you know, what for you, like, because you could have easily stayed home and like dealt with the pain.
Yeah.
Like a lot of men do, like a lot of, was there a fear of like going to the hospital, or has there ever been always been a fear? Because like, I know for me, when I came to New York, and to me as a gay man, I was like so terrified to go to the doctor because and I wasn't even having sex. And I was like, why am I scared to go to the doctor? Like, what has it ever been a fear of like going to the doctor and, just getting checked out in general? Because a lot of men have that. They don't want to go to the doctor and take care of themselves.
It wasn't a fear for me. If anything, it was a fear because I'm not covered by insurance. So it's like, just like go there and like, so like the fear for me isn't like you have cancer or like you have 3 weeks to live. It's like, okay, here's $250,000 that you have to pay us back. And so like that was like where my fear lied. It wasn't necessarily with like getting checked up or like getting seen by a doctor. Like, that's like a walk in the park. But like me having like a card, like a mortgage, by the time that I'm done being seen for whatever it is that I'm being seen for, that was like where the fear like set in. And that's what kept me back from seeing a lot of doctors for like literally almost like your uncle the last 10 years. Yeah. And it's like, I've been like covered sometimes and uncovered sometimes. And when I was covered, I was like in good shape. So I wasn't thinking about seeing a doctor. I wasn't thinking about anything preventative. And when I wasn't covered, I was like, dang, I wish I was covered so I could see a doctor. So I was like almost like a catch-22 where it's like when I had the coverage, I didn't take advantage of it. And I didn't have the coverage. I was like eating myself up because it's like, why didn't you do this when you were covered? And then it's just like, just in hindsight, it just looks like over the last 10 years, because I haven't been seen by a doctor in a decade, that it was really just...
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like brought up your uncle story. I was like, dang, like, it's like tugging at my heart right now. I'm like, that's me, not the military, but just like not seeing the doctor for a decade. And then, lo and behold, a decade later, like coming back and discovering this, it's like, wow, like just realizing that like something could have been done a lot sooner. Yeah. I didn't do anything about it. And the main reason why I didn't even act up until this point was because of like the expense or like the cost. Like I was really scared, like I don't want that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, like, how do you deal with before I even go to that, like, for me, there was a lot of fear too of going to the doctor, even though I am covered,
Wow.
I remember there was a moment, I was seeing a guy doctor, and in this particular week, he was out of town, and then I had to see a female doctor, and, she was asking me more questions than my normal doctor would. I said, okay, I think she asked him my age. She wanted to do a physical. And I was like, okay, do a physical. And then, actually, I know why she did this physical. I'm going to be very TMI right now. So I noticed that when I ejaculated, like there was a different sensation that I normally didn't feel. Like normally it was like much more intense than I normally would. And it was great, but I was like, even though this is so great, something's off. Like I shouldn't feel this intense happen. And so I just kind of brought it up casually, and then she checked my testicle. She's like, I want to send you to another doctor. And I was just like, what? You know what I mean? She's like, well, I kind of feel something. And I got so terrified.
Oh my God.
And then I remember she sent me to this specialist, and I had to get a sonogram, and then I was like looking at the screen, and then she's like, well, there is something here, and I literally, my body just like froze, and I started crying, and the nurse, she's like, listen, you need to stop. She was like, you're making this worse than what it is. We don't even know what this is, and now you're like in this sort of like spiral. She was like, you need to change your thoughts right now, because that is going to stop you and send you down this downward spiral. And she was right. Like, and I had to like really change my thoughts. And I ended up calling my best friend that day. And my friend was like, listen, luckily she's done a lot of transformational work. She's like, okay, what are you making this mean about you? What do you do? Like all this stuff that we were talking about. And it really calmed me down. So I'm curious if like for you, like what are some of the day-to-day thoughts that you deal with that you have to constantly like shift to be in your happy state like you always are?
Well, one thing for me that I realized was just like, just being a partner with the person that's in the room. So like, I know that the nurses and the doctors and the nurse techs are dealing with something. You know, I know when they leave work, they have problems outside of work. You know, I know even in the next room, they have problems with the patient next door. So it's not that I didn't want to be a burden. It's just that I was there for them just as much, if not more, than they were there for me. You know, and I made it a point that whoever walked in that room walked out feeling better than before they got there. You know, like I just made it a point, like, you know, if you walk in with like a neutral look or, you know, even like a slight smirk, like you're going to leave, but like, you know, like laughing hysterically or just like a smile on your face, because, you know, I could be like a crappy patient. I could be complaining the entire time, you know, or I can make their experience and their life better. And we could be like in a partnership together for my health versus like them begrudgingly making me meds, you know, or something, whatever it is. Like, get up and walk. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to walk, you know, because after a surgery, you know, they say you should be moving around. And I've seen it too. Like, it was funny because I was there for 11 days. I had maybe like 5 different roommates, and I was like getting in my head, like, oh my God, like everybody's like in and out. Like this place is like, you know, McDonald's, but like, you know, I'm here for like 11 days. I have like 5 different roommates. What's going on? And like, you know, all of my roommates are great. And there was this one guy who was like, not a similar situation to me, but like a similar situation, like he had like a wound in his stomach, like couldn't really move, and like, you know, asking for like painkillers like every hour. It was like intense. And like, you know, the nurses were like reluctant to see him. And then like literally behind like a cloth curtain is me, you know, and I'm like, you know, like living it up, having the best time of my life. Like my family, my friends are like visiting, so it's amazing. And you know, just like funny how like, you know, two similar scenarios, you know, 2 similar people, you know, but 2 different outcomes. And like the way that the nurses approached me and the doctors approached me versus the way that the nurses approached him and the doctors approached him. It's like your mindset is everything. And then the amount of people who reached out to me during this time, like literally they're all saying that. They're like, you know, just stay strong, you know, keep a strong mind, you know, stay strong, keep your mind strong and the body will follow, you know, and it's just like saying all these needle point expressions, but at the end of the day, what they're saying is true. It's like, and if you're not there for the people that are there for you, then it's like, literally, it's like, because your fate's in your own hands. So it's like, you're just kind of like throwing the fate of your health down the tube.
Right. And you're right. Like I'm glad you said that, because it's a segue to, I think I mentioned this book to you called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hayes. And you know, Louise Hayes, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And before they were going to put her in treatment, but she in her movie, there's also a documentary too, which you should watch. And she says, before I go chemotherapy, there's something I need to do so I can learn how to heal myself before I want to do something first before I go to chemotherapy. And they were like, okay. So she literally, I'm going to say this, very landmarky, where she literally started to write down all her negative thoughts, all the resentments, all the people she never forgiven. She really went through her entire life and dealt with each thing.
Wow.
And in her book, I have it right here, like, you know, You Can Heal Your Life. And I remember, like, I was just so engrossed in the book, and it has all these workbooks, these worksheets, and she really breaks it down, like with family, with friends, with money, with your like the disease that you're dealing with, and she pinpoints and also a woman named Julia Cameron, who wrote Anatomy of the Spirit. She also breaks the body down and like different diseases and like what situation in your life that could have linked back to those things that cause your body to produce these things. And so she really took it upon herself to like analyze and started to shift all her thoughts. Even like just quickly glancing in the book before doing this podcast, she's even like, whatever fear that you have when you're dealing with something, you have to analyze it, look at it, where it comes from, and shift that mentality, because that mentality will take you out of the game. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just curious of like, you know, have you done like any work recently of shifting your fears, and what is your new conversation with yourself now, as opposed to, because a lot of men deal with this. A lot of men don't talk about these things. Yeah. And it'd be great to hear from someone like you. I mean, either I can share my own too, because I remember when I got hurt, when I hurt my back, I literally couldn't get out of bed. I barely could walk. To turn over, I was in excruciating pain. I remember having this thought of like, oh my God, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. I'm never going to do this. I can't. And I was just like, I started bawling, and I was just like, what? Like, I was like, stop. Like, if I continue down this pathway, of course I'm not going to heal myself.
Yeah.
And I had to like really shift those thoughts. Like, I have a healthy body, healthy mind, even though I was in so much pain, and the willingness to ask for help, because I was like, I'm going to like do this. And I had to break down, call my best friend. I was like, I need to go to the emergency room right now. You know, so how do you deal with your thoughts and the people around you and shift that conversation with yourself?
Two things. Like, one, just really going back to like, you know, being there for them more than they are for you, or like being there for them just as much as they are for you, because it's like when you're putting them first, or like when you're stepping outside of yourself, it's like you almost don't have time, or you almost don't have the capacity for your negative thoughts. It's like you're just there, being there and being great with them. So it's like all your thoughts, all your reservations, considerations, limitations, whatever you want to call them, not necessarily stop or cease, but they just kind of like the volume on them lowers. And then you're just able to be like really just super present and like, you know, appreciative in the moment. And like, that's really all there is. Like one thing that this journey has taught me is just like endless appreciation and really just like endless love. And like, as like out there as that sounds, like it's working for me, you know? And it's like, that's not like a prescription for everybody. That's just like what I found to work for myself.
Because all you have is right now.
Literally, that is all you have. And it's just like, if you don't take advantage of like what you have right now, if you don't take advantage of the time that you have right now, and the responsibility, like it is your responsibility to generate good feelings and appreciation for yourself right now. Like, you're not going to get it from, you know, an Xbox. You're not going to get it from a new suit. You're not going to get it from a girlfriend. Like, you know, that is something that is your responsibility. And that's how it is. It's like, you know, you generate your own emotions, you generate your own mindset. So it's like being in control of this every single second of every single day is what you were put on this earth to do. And is it easy? I mean, it depends on the person, you know. And is it possible? Getting close to it is possible. So I think just being there for people, putting myself aside is one thing. And then, on top of that, just really realizing that, like you said before, all you have is this moment. So it's like, what are you choosing in this moment?
Right. It's like, you know, going back to Return to Love, and she says, we all have this moment right now. So you either choosing love or fear. That's it. The only two actions you can take. And I actually yesterday, you know, we had like a classroom, and our coach was saying, going back to the book Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, and she was saying that either you're taking your actions out of fear or you're taking your actions out of love, and which one is going to generate for you the best results, because fear produces fear and love produces love. You know what I mean? And you want to always check with yourself, what I'm about to say, is it out of fear or is it out of love? Is this action what I'm taking out of fear or is it out of love? And things are going to happen, you know, but you want to always check in, what I'm about to say coming from a place of love or fear? And that I just springboarding off of what you said, and just going back to what you said before about how, like, when you did see the doctor, you were concerned about kids and stuff like that. It's about like your legacy. So it's like not even just like love in the moment, but it's like, am I acting out of fear or am I acting out of love? And it's just like, how will this benefit like the generations behind me, or like, you know, the generations that are coming after me? Because if you think about it, it's like, because I start to like, this whole process is really just like, and I haven't opened up like a textbook at all, but it really just like makes me equate the human body or the human experience to like using a computer. So it's just like, you know, it's like that lady in her book, she wrote down all of her thoughts. And I just kind of think of like, those are all like, you know, viruses on her computer. And it's just like, there's like two ways to make a computer work. It's like, you could either go through each antivirus, you know, or each virus, you know, and just like, you know, correct it, you know, like run the antivirus and like, you know, wipe them all out. Or you could just like factory reset the computer. So like another thing that I did was just like go back to baseline, like just go back to zero and just realize like, you know, like nothing else compares to this moment that you have right now. Like, so, and just like really, really harping on that and revisiting that often has just gotten me through a lot. And then it also made me realize like, okay, like if I'm acting out of fear or speaking out of fear versus if I'm speaking out of love, what impact will that leave the generations that come after me, whether they're related to me or not? Because ultimately it's like, you know, in this moment, all you have is you, and what you do in this moment impacts not just you, but like everybody who comes before, you know, everybody who comes after you, and also everybody who came before you. I'm curious of like how like, what else is this teaching you about you? Like, how are you learning to love you a little bit more every day?
That's really great. I think like what it has me do is like shift my love, not necessarily towards myself, but more so towards the universe. And it's like when you put your love on that big of a power or like that big of an entity, it's not necessarily like it shows up. I kind of see love like skipping stones. It's like you don't really skip a stone with the desire that it comes back. You kind of like skip a stone to see how far it's going to go. And that's kind of how I feel like love is. It's like, I don't send love, hoping that like, somebody will give me something in return or like give me attention or affection or anything like that. I send out love just to see like how far it could reach. That's like ultimately what it is about for me now.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so awesome. I really love that. I'm curious, like, going to back what we said earlier of like how men don't talk about health, like, or health issues. Like, what is in your opinion, like, well, why is this important for you to speak about this right now and agreeing to do this? And, why is it important for men to share and talk and be brave? Because you're being very brave, and stepping into your bravery and stepping into loving yourself. Because ultimately you're loving yourself by putting yourself out there and just sharing what you have so people can know, like, you don't have to be hiding behind your computer or be laying in bed like comatose. You can actually talk about this without being doom and gloom. So like, first of all, let's talk like why men don't talk about their health or share it, like talk about this stuff in your opinion, from your experience.
I just think it's not in the book, and like nobody's really given a manual for how to be a man or how to be a human. But it's like, they're like, even if they were given a manual, like it's not really like in the book, it's not like a chapter that's really covered. So it's just like, and there's no real examples of it. And like any kind of like examples of it are considered like weak or just like,
right.
So it's like,
which is a false belief. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those like images are like all around us, and it's like we're really just like reactions responding to like all these images all around us, and it's like we don't really get a chance to be our true authentic selves. And it's like a little sad because it's like you see this thing, you get triggered, you don't know why, and the next thing you know, like a half an hour of your life is gone. And
right.
You're like, what did I just do for like that last half an hour? And it's like, oh, you're just busy like responding to a reaction or like responding to a stimulus and then responding to your response of these stimulus in your mind.
And you waste like 30 minutes to an hour, like, and it's
a day, a year.
I remember like, having a conversation, like I work at, events, and I said something to this guy, he got all jacked up about it. And then 30 minutes later, he's still, I was like, girl, you still talking about this? Like, I left that back there. I'm not interested in like continuing this conversation that you're triggered about it. I'm just like, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm ready to move on. I don't want to be angry, upset, anxiety by like, all that's on you. And it's what you said, it's like, a lot of men don't stop and think, why am I triggered by this? Because the trigger has nothing to do with them, that they said something that like I reacted. And I've learned that too, especially because I studied with Calling in the One and Catherine Wilbur Thomas. And actually Will Smith said this in one of his videos with Jada Pinkett, when he gets angry and upset with her, he knows that there's some part of him is reacting and believing that what she said is really true or devaluing me. He was like, that's not with her, that's with me. I'm the one who's making it mean that I am not good enough. I have to deal with that, not her. I have to deal with that. So, I wish more men would step back and look and ask the question, why am I triggered by this? Why does this bother me? Why am I not, I used to have this a lot, so why can I not go to the doctor?
Yeah.
What is it that is keeping me from going through the door? You know what I mean? Like,
or even just being vulnerable or like willing to be wrong. Like, it's like, I realize it's like a lot of people are just unwilling to be wrong. It's like, no, I'm right. What I say goes, and that's it. And it's just like, you realize that in that perspective, where you're so righteous, you're kind of just limiting yourself to other thoughts and possibilities. Like, imagine the people who thought the world were flat, like, won that debate, you know?
Right.
Like,
yeah, I find like a lot of men, you like exactly what you said, this self-righteousness stop them from being vulnerable, stop them from being authentic. I remember I was leading this this program, and I was talking to this guy. He wanted to register, and African-American guy.
awesome.
And he was in the room the whole time, wouldn't have the paperwork, filled it out, but wouldn't register. And he had the money in his pocket. He's like, I can pay for this cash right now. And I was like, okay, well, what's stopping you? And he was like, if I give you this money, then I can't help my family.
Wow.
But it was deeper than that.
Yeah.
And then he finally said, I said, well, who can you call to help you out? And he looked at me. He was like, call? He was like, I can't call anybody in my family. He said, if I call them and tell them that I need money, they're going to see me as weak, and I have to be the strong one in the family. I have to. Like, I cannot let them see me struggle.
Yeah, and
that's what men deal with.
Well, it's funny too, because like those words "have to" are almost like a shall, like
right.
gotten to you, and it's just like you want to be land of the free, home of the brave, but it's like you have all these haves and these shoulds and these obligations, and it's just like, how free can you be when you're obligated? It's like there's a video game that I played, or that my nephews played, and it said like a slave. I think a man chooses and a slave obeys, and it's just like, so are you going to be like a man and choose freely, or are you going to be like a slave and just obey your haves and your shoulds and your obligations? And the weird part is like those haves, those shoulds, and those obligations aren't even probably from you anyway. They're probably from like society or like somewhere that you read it. It's like, you don't even know how they got in there, and you're defending them, even though you don't even know how those ideas and beliefs got in there, which is like the wonderful part about being a human.
Right. But it's also an opportunity to discover where that belief come from, and why do I believe that? Like, if I think when I was becoming a coach in my certification, like we really had to look at beliefs. Even like now in these entrepreneur groups, she not that she forces us, but she have us look at the beliefs behind why we're pursuing our business, why we want to make this kind of money, why, really analyze and shift that belief, because of that, this empowering belief will stop you from making the money that you want to make, or stop you from going or either picking up the phone or answering an email. We hold on to these beliefs about ourselves. Or sometimes we didn't even know that we have these beliefs that are pigeonholing us and holding us down, and I remember when I first going to the clinic to get tested for STDs, I was just so terrified, and I was just like, why am I so scared? You know what I mean? Like, I knew I was having protected sex. I knew I wasn't really sexually active, you know what I mean? And like just sitting in that room, I think at the time there wasn't, PrEP and things around for like HIV, and like, I was very uneducated about viruses, and I think that's what scares people, because we're very uneducated about, there's vaccine for this, there's a medication for like syphilis or gonorrhea or chlamydia, and I remember just being relieved, like I had nothing, and I was just like, well, that wasn't so bad, you know what I mean? But I had to really, for myself, really started to like look at why am I afraid to be at the doctor? Like, what is so scary? Like, it's just like what you said earlier. Every doctor, every nurse is here to help me get better. So I need to come from that place. Like, they're in partnership with me to make sure that my health is okay. Even if it's for me to like, well, you need to stop eating meat. I was like, okay. Just like, doing what it takes to be healthy. And some people, especially in the African-American community, like would not give up meat in order to have a healthier life. It was like, I'd rather just die than give up or like stuff like that. But I'm curious to have you, like, what are some of your beliefs and what some of your fears of like that kept you from 10 years of going to the doctor?
I don't think it was a fear as much as it was more so arrogance. Like with me, it was just arrogant. I was like, I was always running, I was always lifting, I was always working out so stopping to see a doctor wasn't even necessary. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I got this insurance. Like, oh yeah, I got this primary care physician and I don't need to use it. And that's the worst thing that I could have ever done to myself, because finally when I did go, it's like, I got hit with a truck. So
Right.
it's just interesting. I don't think, for me, it wasn't fear. It was more so just me believing that I was in the healthiest shape that I could be based on, you know, my health, like from an
Outside appearances, how you felt.
from an external standpoint and not an internal standpoint. And there are things that, you know, scans and checkups can pick up that you can't see with the naked eye.
Right. And how has your conversation shifted with your male friends about health now?
Just, it's funny because, like, you know, I'm like, hi, you know, I have stage 3 cancer in my colon, you know, like that's like literally how like the conversations have started. And just really raising awareness around this. It's like, you know, because they'll like look at me like, oh my God, you're so healthy. Like, you know, you're so fit, you're so sociable. Like, I don't understand. Like, you know, like, how did this happen to you? I even went vegan for a little bit, you know, a week before Thanksgiving, which I don't think was the smartest idea. But, you know, like, I even like was even changing my diet. So for them to be in a conversation with me about this life-altering situation that I'm in now, and just realizing that I'm going through what I'm going through, like, I just hope that it raises their awareness to be like, all right, you know, like, take this seriously, like, you know, get checkups, get scanned, do whatever it is that you have to do. Like, they recommended my entire, like, all my siblings get scanned, and like, I'm really pushing that they get scanned. And because it's like, you don't know where it'll come from. And on Wednesday, I went to go get genetic tests because, like, they're trying to figure out like where it came from, because, you know, people in my family had cancer, but they didn't have the type of cancer that I have. So like, they're really trying to figure out like, you know, is this genetic, or like, did this just kind of come out of nowhere? And like, sometimes cancer could just come out of nowhere. And like, that's what I'm starting to realize. Like, it doesn't have to be because your mom had it, or because your dad had it, or your grandmother, or your aunt. Like, it could just literally, you know, just like duck, 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 goose. Like, it's random.
Wow.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
like one day you could get picked. So it's like, you might as well choose to get checkups and get it done, taken care of earlier, rather than trying to, like, you know, fight the uphill battle on the back end when you find out later on down the road.
What do you hope that men take away from like hearing this? Or
Just
people
like,
in general?
just capture every moment, you know, live every moment like it's your last, and, you know, just make it a priority to be vulnerable, you know, share what it is that you're going through. Like, you don't have to be stoic, you don't have to be the strong stone warrior. Like, there are people in the world that are going through what you're going through, and get checked up, because at the end of the day, it's like, it may be an hour, maybe 2 hours, but it's like, you're on this planet, if you're lucky enough to live to be 75 for like 28,000 days, you know, times that by 24, that's how many hours you're on this planet, you know. And it's just like, is 1 or 2 hours like worth not having more hours in the grand scheme of things?
Right. I'm curious, you mentioned vulnerability, because that's really interesting. As I was talking about Jason Rosario, the creator of Dear Men, and he's really advocating like men being vulnerable, men being authentic and sharing themselves. So I'm curious, like, why is that important? Like, why do you see, or what is a realization that you see that is important to step into?
Because we're not mind readers, and nobody knows what you're dealing with, you know? It's just like, if we were mind readers, everybody would win the lottery and
Right.
it would work out. And unfortunately, that's not the case. It's like, nobody knows what you're dealing with until you open your mouth. And the interesting part is, you could like open your mouth and like say the truth or something authentic, or you could open your mouth and say, you know, a falsehood and something inauthentic. So it's like, nobody's gonna truly know what you're dealing with until you like authentically open your mouth and speak from that place.
And who have you been vulnerable with recently?
Just everybody, like, people are coming out of the woodworks like, oh my God, I heard what happened. So it's just like literally every single conversation, every single moment. And when I'm not doing that, I'm probably sleeping.
And has there been moments too of like, you know, you thought about like, well, why am I holding on to this resentment? Why haven't I forgiven this person? Like, have you thought about those things, and have you dealt with those things?
They come up from time to time, and then I just realize like, that's always going to come up, just being a human, and just dealing with it's going to come on a day-to-day, like moment-to-moment basis. And then like, as soon as it comes up and I'm aware of it, yeah, I do deal with it. Like, you know, like, no, like, you know, this person's amazing. Like,
Give me an example. You have an example that comes up for you all the time?
Yeah, like my sister, like sometimes like we'll talk, and then like, you know, I'll say something. She's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe so many people are contributing to you, you know, on your website. And I'm like, oh, that's because it's this particular group of people that's been like contributing to me the most. And then she'll like either like change the subject, or like, you know, like quote like the Bible. And I'm just like, did you not just hear what I said? Like, this like great body of people just like really contributed to me in my life, just like really putting that out there. And just like, so like with me, with her, it's just kind of like, I don't want to say like a back and forth struggle, but it's just like really representing myself to like, that's like not my only sister, but like that's my only sister, that's her. And just realizing that like she's an amazing person. Like I greatly appreciate her, like me having her in my life. And like then it just all disappears, and then like I'm just able to be there and just be present with her. It's like just as fast as it comes, it disappears. And like when it disappears, like it lasts longer than when I'm in that reactive state.
Yeah. So what are have you been doing things that you wouldn't do to just like how are you living life more? Because, a lot of when people face something like this, or in general, you go, well, why haven't I done this? What are some things that you're doing that you hadn't done or are doing now? And you like finally get all this out of your system, like, how do you think your view, I know this is sort of projecting in the future, what do you think you're going to start doing differently? Or what are you doing differently other than just being and appreciative and giving your love and throwing it out there? Like, what are you doing differently?
Well, the interesting part is like, I honestly think that is the difference. Like just like sending the love out there, and then also the vulnerability. So like, I take pride in like knowing a lot and like being able to coach others, but I, grimace or like cower away from like others contributing to me. So just like really allowing myself, so like what I'm doing differently now is allowing myself to be vulnerable and be open and to talk about it. And It's fun, like in talking about it, it's like I'm able to bring like a lot of humor and like light to the situation.
Yeah. And
because it's like whenever I usually see a post about cancer, it's like, oh my God, da, da, da. And I'm not saying that cancer is not a serious thing. I am saying that, you can, like, it's like weird. Like I'm excited like a kid before Christmas to go to my next chemo treatment. It's like, I go on Fridays. I know it'll knock me out probably all day Saturday and all day Sunday, but I'm still like excited like a kid waiting by the Christmas tree or by the chimney, because like I know it's like a step closer to me getting healthier. I know it's a step closer to me getting better. And then just like making these mental shifts has made the difference for me, and also just being more vulnerable and open.
And what was it like going to your first treatment?
It was amazing. Like I was there, like my friend Alex and my sister were there like visiting me. And it's funny because he was like, oh my God, he's like, I thought I was going to have to like come here and lift your spirits. But he was like, I'm actually like glad I came. I like sat back and just laughed the whole time. And I was like, that's how I want the journey to be. Like, will it get harder?
Yeah.
That could be a possibility. Could I get super weak and negative? That could be a possibility. And like, am I doing everything in my power right now in order to maintain and like just continue what I have going on now? Yeah. So.
And what is it like when walk me through like what chemo is and like what is the process that happens to your body? Like, what is all that?
Gotcha. So like I had 2 surgeries, and like one was a port in my chest, and like that's where they put the chemo in. So basically it's just like, it's an injection. Mine lasts for 2 hours, and like the needle just literally pops on like a button. And like they make me numb it with some cream before I get the needle, so I don't even feel it. And then so I'm like just like laying there, like getting the IV for 2 hours. And then another nurse comes in and they like replace that IV with like another like backpack IV. And that's like to put like more chemo in my body over the weekend for the next 48 hours. So it's like 2 hours at the hospital and then like another 24 after I leave. And then like when I'm there, like super relaxed, like it doesn't hurt, it's not painful or anything like that. And then what I've noticed was just like after that Friday treatment, like Friday I'm good. But then like Saturday, it's like all I did was like wake up for breakfast, eat, and wake up for lunch, eat, and sleep. Sunday, and then like, wake up for dinner, eat, and sleep. And then Sunday was similar. Like I think I woke up for breakfast, ate, and slept. And then I woke up like around, I want to say like afternoon time, like 2 or 3 o'clock. And then like me and my friend hung out at the Starbucks. And then like as soon as I got back from the Starbucks, we're like, because we were there for like a good like hour or 2, like I just like went right to sleep. And then like by like Monday, Tuesday, I was kind of like back to like a normal like staying awake during the day pattern. So like that's what it's been like. But as far as pain, no pain. Just with me being like such an active guy, like having to like not.
Are you still working out?
No, like so it's like not being able to work out, that kind of like gets to me. And then like just like sleeping like so much and like not being able to run, that gets to me too. So
because it knocks you out.
Yeah.
And what is it about?
Also from the surgery, it placed like physical limitations on me. So like I can't lift more than 20 pounds and like,
So you've had this surgery, you had it removed.
Yeah.
And so the chemotherapy is to make sure that any leftover residue is like going away or shrinking.
Well, the surgery that I had just now was just, so right now I crap into a bag that's like to the left of my, that's to the left of my belly. So like that surgery was for that. So I was like, like underneath the shirt is a bag that's attached to my stomach where like all my waste goes into. And then so that surgery, so like, my physical limitations are in response to that surgery. Like I can't lift more than 20 pounds and I can't run, but I could walk and I could do stairs. So I was like, somebody who was like in the gym, like sometimes 3 times a day, like you can't lift more than 20 pounds and like you can't run. I'm just like, feel myself.
I mean, how do you deal with that? Because I know for me, after my injury for my back, like going through Spartan trainings, you're like physically running and lifting. And like today I was in the gym, I usually could do pull-ups. And now it's like, I'm back to like 0. Like, just because the stress on my back, like was so great. I couldn't even lift myself up for like 1.5 years just to be careful. So now I'm like back in a place of like trying to get, and it's so frustrating that like I have to like learn how to like, okay, just one day at a time. Like how are you managing that with yourself? Like knowing that, because I know you're very super fit and super doing all these things, did all these things, and now like, okay, you're basically back at 0.
Yeah.
Like, how are you dealing with that? How are you handling that every day to day?
With me, just really just focusing on like, this is part of the healing process. And it's just like, as much as my ego, or
I know that ego,
my past identity of myself wants to work out and wants to like, control the world and like, run around the world. Like, I just have to realize that, it's a humbling experience. Like, and it's all for like, there's a bigger payoff in the long run. And like, if I were to compromise that, if I were to like give into these desires, then it's like, I may not see the benefits of like health, like, 6 months to 1 year down the road, depending on when the chemo is done and like when I fully recover from the chemotherapy. So just kind of like having that marathon mindset in mind versus like that sprinter mindset in mind is really
so
like,
good. Yeah.
Like I want to work out right now, like reactions that come up every now and then.
Yeah. Some key takeaways is, throw that love out there and have no expectations. Just like, and love every human being that you come in contact with, because everybody's doing their best and people want to see you win.
Yeah.
2, you said, be vulnerable, like have the courage to be vulnerable and share yourself, like what you're going through, and, get help and go to a doctor and share with your friends, And I'm sure like in this time, like when I was injured, I guess like learning that, there's nothing but right now. There's nothing but right now. And I'm either going to choose to be in agony and pain and frustration, or I'm just going to let this go right now because I don't want to waste time being frustrated, What else? Takeaways?
I think just really like you summed it up, like be vulnerable, go get checked, and just knowing that like, this moment is all you have right now. It's funny too, because one of my nurses, she's like, you're going to get through it. My sister beat cancer, God rest her soul. I'm like, wait, your sister beat cancer? Like, why are you saying God rest her soul? Was she not with us anymore? And she's like, oh, she got hit by a car like a week after. I'm like, wait, what? So it's
God.
You literally only have this moment right now. So just soak it up. And, it's a diagnosis, not a death sentence. Like, even if you go to the doctor and you find something, like, know that, there are people with way worse cancers than I have that have recovered from them, and I consider myself lucky because, even though it is an advanced stage, it's not as advanced as it could be.
Yeah. And you can be happy living with cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I just really appreciate you just being here and sharing yourself, and you mean a lot to me. That's why I wanted to have you here, and just wanted to acknowledge you for, your courage and your bravery and your vulnerability and your authenticity, and just sharing yourself like you never had before. And it's so beautiful and powerful. And I thank you.
Well, I greatly appreciate that and accept that acknowledgement. And I just want to acknowledge and appreciate you for just being a stand for this work, like, going out on a limb, starting your podcast, and inspiring me inspiring me to get up this morning and, like, you know, actually have something on my plate to do. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, you know, like literally felt like I was on my way to like a job interview. Like, like the best experience that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And you're also like, you know, having having me have a different conversation in my mind where it's like, you know, now that I have all these physical limitations and like coming from the background of being a server, it's like, what do I do for work? And now you're starting to show me that like there's like technology out there that you could use and still get stuff done. So I'm like, you're opening my eyes right now. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I know you have a GoFundMe page. That GoFundMe page will be in the show link. So please support this man, donate to his cause. And yeah, so thank you so much for being here. And I love you, man.
Thank you, Jeff.